available in more homes than the Pac-12 network. We are the podcast of champions.
Fight! I give it back now to the 30. They're down to the 20. All the band is out on the field.
I'm David Woods from Bruin Report Online.
And here he goes, Miles Jack.
And I'm Ryan Abraham from USCFootball.com.
Liner going to try to sneak it ahead. Touchdown, SC.
We are the podcast of champions. Welcome, everyone, back to the podcast of champions. I'm David Woods from Bruin Report Online, the UCLA site on the 24/7 Sports Network.
And I'm Ryan Abraham from USCFootball.com, the USC site on the 24/7 Sports Network. And together we make the podcast of champions, talking all things Pac-12 football. I got David to look into the camera. It's a great morning. I already sent him my Wordle. I got it in 3 tries. Boom, nailed it. It's going to be a good day. It's going to be a good show.
Wow.
Because we got to talk about Pac-12 Week 7 action.
You're still doing Wordle.
I still do it. You don't do it anymore?
No.
Is that over?
We're like 10 months into this. This was zeitgeist of the moment. Move on, buddy.
I started late on the Wordle. I wasn't like an early adapter of the Wordle. But yeah. All right. Well, anyway, so it's going to be a good show. We are broadcasting live on YouTube.
That's
if you're watching
presumptuous.
it Tuesday morning.
It's going to be a good show?
I'm very happy.
I've already derailed you twice. What do you think?
That's true.
Yeah.
But we are simulcasting live on our YouTube channel. Get over there. Hit that like button. Hit the smash it. Like it.
We've only got 4 right now. We need more.
We need more likes. So get in there. And if you're watching this on replay, thank you very much. We have over 400 subscribers on our little YouTube channel now. So we got to boot that up. We got to get to 1,000, of course. Get that up there. So subscribe, like, tell your friends, do all that stuff. We put it on our Twitter. If you want to have any questions for us, we got a bunch of questions on our email, pac12podcast@gmail.com. You can also call or text us at 424-532-0678. I don't think we got a text this week, but we do have a couple of voicemails. We've got Sith Lord calling in, so that'll be fun a little bit later on. You can tweet us at Pac12Podcast. The website is pac12podcast.com, where all of our content goes up, your picks, all of that. You can see everything that we do up there on pac12podcast.com. And then the reddit.com/r/podcast of champions if you want to chat with other POC listeners. But the most important thing, Apple Podcast, that app. I don't care if you don't have an iPhone, you got a Mac somewhere, anywhere you can have an Apple device, download the Apple Podcasting app, subscribe, follow the Podcast of Champions, and leave us a 5-star rating and a review that you can say whatever you want about us as long as you leave us the 5 stars. We got any new ones, David?
We've got 3 new ones.
Wow.
And
we're getting
speaking
a bunch
of
them.
you can say whatever you want, and we'll read it on air as long as it's a 5-star review.
Yeah.
5-star review. This is from Josh, 3212. Woods is insufferable. 5 stars for Ryan, fully carrying a podcast and offering good, unbiased insight despite the condescending character that is David Woods. I'm convinced he doesn't like his job, or people, or really anything other than making fun of people to make himself feel better. Well done, Ryan. Not sure how you do it. Thank you, Josh.
Yeah.
5-star review, baby.
I love it. Thanks, Josh.
All right, we got 2 more. This is from Go UCLA 05, 5-star review. Dive bombing for kudos. Listening to this dumpster fire of a podcast in the hopes of actually learning anything is truly an exercise in futility. On one hand, we've got Ryan Abraham, the absolute paragon of journalistic excellence and professionalism, a man who makes Edward R. Murrow look like the love child of Perez Hilton and Harvey Levin from TMZ. And on the other hand, we've got David Woods, the foremost bridge troll of the college sports media world. You would think that they would do a good job complimenting each other, with each being a good yin to the other's yang. But in reality, they only serve to amplify each other's worst and most obnoxious traits and tendencies. They're much closer to the main characters of Mike and Dave Need Wedding Dates than they are to Siskel and Ebert. A delight to none of the senses, tuning in every week has simply become part of my own masochistic routine that unfortunately my OCD will not allow me to break. 5-star review, baby.
That's another good one.
We love it.
Yeah.
And this is a 5-star review from Lil Tekka up next. Fight on. This podcast is the father I never had. Beautiful.
Wow. Okay.
3 great reviews.
We appreciate all of those. And I was putting some comments up if you're watching on YouTube. So if you have any comments and you're watching us live, what else are you going to do on a Monday morning at almost 10 o'clock in the morning? You want to watch the Podcast of Champions going live. We will put your comments up there. If you have a question, put question, and I will star that, and we'll get back to it later. But David, I want to talk a little bit. Our gambling's not been so good. We are
some better than others.
No, we were tied this week.
Right,
we were both 2 and 3.
But like if we're taking an overall picture, if we're taking an overall like an overview of the situation,
yeah.
One of us is a little bit better than the other.
You are still alive. Yes, very close. You are still alive in the survival pool. Who are you picking this week? You took Washington.
I believe I'm Oregon State this week.
Oregon State. Okay. Real quick on the survival pool before we get to the picks. Matthew sent another recap, which was very nice. And if I can find it. Yeah, so we are down 59 survivors from week 6. Now it's 32. So there's only 32 people left from 257 that started it. Most people, like you, took Washington and they moved on. 24 people. 3 people took Oregon State. 3 people had Utah, the close one there. And 2 people took Colorado and advanced. So
one of those 2 will be the winner.
Yeah, because they already have Colorado.
Yeah.
I like that. You still think Colorado's bad. Okay.
Yeah.
21 people.
Did you watch the football game?
Yes. No spoilers. 21 people took Cal, so they are bye-bye. 2 people took USC. Kind of risky there. Just the Utah-USC game would be risky no matter what. And one person had Washington State on the road, Corvallis. So those people are gone. So, yeah. So only 32 winners left. So good for that. But he says, congrats to Ryan and Jamie, who both picked Colorado. Now they have a huge advantage to make it to the end. Particular kudos, not me, Ryan, a different Ryan, to Ryan, who had...
There's another one?
Yes. Still had an obvious pick of Cal available. So they could have took Cal, but yeah, nice one there. But yeah, so we moved on that. We were 2 and 3 in our picks against the spread. I mean, part of the reason being like our main... the source of income has been picking against Stanford and picking against Colorado, and that did not bear fruit this week. So, yeah, one of those things.
We should have been able to predict, having watched Cal and Notre Dame play each other earlier this year, that neither of those were going to bear fruit in our quest to have Colorado go winless against the spread this year.
Yeah.
Or Stanford go winless the rest of the season.
Yeah. But so maybe don't listen to our picks, but you got to get over there into my bookie and do your picks, because your picks are probably better than ours. We are both above, still well above 500, which is nice. But
you sound down.
No, I'm good.
You just sound a little downbeat.
Really?
You're talking crap about our picks. We're well above 500.
We are, just this week.
This is classic Ryan being like, "We're making you money," and instead you're just kind of down at the mouth.
That 9
like
and
the corners. Turn that frown upside down.
That 9-2 week I had, that was good. I like that, but it's not. I've not been able to repeat that. But you can double your initial deposit over at my bookie with the promo code Pac-12. Of course, that's for us. Get in there. Lots of fun stuff. You can do Monday Night Football tonight. You can do any of the NFL stuff. Heck, you got baseball playoffs and stuff going on. The NBA season is starting tomorrow, I believe. Lots of stuff to get to. Of course, Pac-12 football. Only 4 games this weekend, so you can get in there, do a little parlays if you want to move stuff around. Check all that stuff out over at MyBookie. But remember, the promo code is Pac-12. So get in there and put your initial deposit. You can double it. So up to $1,000. You put in 500, becomes 1,000. You put 1,000, becomes 2,000. You put in 100, it's 200. Anyway, you'd have a lot more money to bet on these last 6 weeks or so of the Pac-12 football season, and of course, all the other stuff going on over there. So our friends over at MyBookie will definitely help you out.
Do they give you your money back if the consensus is that the refs decided the victory? Like, do they give?
They do not.
Wow.
Yeah, that's.
But
not...
but even if it's like universal consensus, like all of the like say LA media, like just full consensus that the refs were the problem. They don't give the money back?
There's a note on your betting slip.
Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah.
Okay,
it says, unfortunately, do you remember there was a USC-Utah game at the Coliseum that there was like a late score that I think they changed. Like, it wasn't like stats. Like, they changed stats and
didn't they change the score?
They changed the score. And it changed the outcome of whatever the betting line was.
Doesn't that just make it a no bet?
I think people like cash tickets, and then it was like a weird. I can't remember what it was, but that was a really weird one. But yeah, that was an interesting one. They changed. Dalton Kincaid was catching passes after this game. We're going to get to. Because I got an email. It's like, by the way, he had an extra catch for more yards. Like, okay, like he's even catching passes and the game's already over. So, yeah, that's pretty amazing. Let's see, Pac-12 newsy stuff. Not too much. Home teams all won in the Pac-12 if they're Pac-12 games. And I believe Colorado and Stanford were the last two teams to get wins against FBS opponents. Somebody said Hawaii, they got their first win too, but I had seen a tweet or something somewhere. But yeah, get off the snide a little bit. We got the how weird is it when our two bottom dwellers, like they were cemented in the bottom two spots of the Podcast of Champions Power Rankings, which everybody talks about. I mean, they're just talking about all over the country.
Yeah, you know, it's national.
It leads, yeah. Feinbaum, he leads with that. All the stuff on the SEC talk. They both win. Like, how is that even possible?
It's just the Pac-12. It's the power of the Pac-12. I mean, Stanford's win over Notre Dame, we should have foreseen. Cal went in there and almost won.
Yeah,
and we just saw what Cal is. Cal's the worst team in the history of football. You don't know why? Because they stole that title from Colorado.
You tweeted that out. Like those are the rules, right?
Right.
It's good to play the worst team in the history of college football, but if you lose to them,
there's a
instantly
risk.
become the worst.
No,
even if you're 11-1, you are now the worst team in college football history.
Yeah, no, it's a contact disease.
Yeah.
You touch them and they touch you, and if they win, you get it. It's like the ring. It's like the ring. You watch the video now. I showed you the video. Now you have to be haunted by the little girl coming out of the TV.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome stuff. Well, we got a bunch of people on the chat, so thank you for that. We'll get to questions and stuff you have. It's mostly been comments and stuff. I'll try to put your comments up on the screen, but obviously I'm producing, hosting, and doing all these things. And David's sitting over there, just laughing because that's what he does. Yeah. So I think we have to start with our
Pac-12 Roundup.
Unless there is anything else that you wanted to get to.
No. What I want to get to is in this period.
Okay.
When we're talking about the games.
So we have to.
Some games more than others.
Where's our? Oh, let me move our power rankings up here a little bit. So for these, we like to kind of go through, and our power rankings have definitely shifted, which is kind of crazy. And we talked about that. The disease, the ring disease that you get, because we have a new number 12 team.
California Golden Bears.
And they were on the road, which we know in the Pac-12 is a near impossibility to win. Moving up. I mean, I think this is a huge win for the Buffs. Now number 11.
Colorado Buffaloes.
Before I get to anything else, very happy for Colorado fans.
Yeah.
I just want that said. That said, this was the worst football game I've watched in a really long time. I watched more or less every second of it. I couldn't take overtime, so I had to watch it later. But I got through regulation, and I'm like, I cannot do another minute of this thing. But horrible football game. Horrible. Offenses both atrocious. Defenses technically I think were fine, but not really. I think it was just the offenses were awful. Cal lost by 7 in overtime. The beauty of it was Cal had a touchdown. The guy had the ball in his hands, but he caught it so casually, like he was trying to look so cool that that like basic that basic basketball drill that you teach kids like when they're in 3rd grade. You hold the ball like this, and it's harder to hit. You hold it like this, and they'll be able to slap it out of your hands. He held it like this. They slapped it out of his hands.
But that ball got there by like Pony Express. Like that was not an express pass.
Whatever. It still should have been caught. But anyway, Colorado won 20-13. Bill Musgrave is a pestilence. He is somebody who was sent here to destroy all sensibility. He is one of the 4 horsemen. And what he is doing to Cal football should not only get him fired, it should get Justin Wilcox fired. It should actually get the Oregon AD fired if it's true that Oregon offered Justin Wilcox the job. Because anybody who was willing to hire Bill Musgrave as their offensive coordinator, he should not only be judged, but everyone who associates, like John Wilner. I'm sorry, our friend John. If you're pushing Justin Wilcox, he's the guy who hired Bill Musgrave. Sorry, you're guilt by association too. Everyone is.
This is the ring thing again.
Yeah,
like
no, the tendrils from hiring Bill Musgrave reach out to everyone. Like I think Chris Peterson, because at one time he hired Justin Wilcox for a job, he is tainted by this too.
Right.
That is what the hiring of Bill Musgrave is. It is one of the worst things that's ever happened in the history of the world.
The Amazon customer service people that took his phone call, they're now tainted.
Yeah.
The whole company's going to tank. It goes that deep.
Yeah, exactly. The reason I bring this up is I want to say Cal had between 1,500 and 2,000 opportunities on third or fourth and 1 in this game, and every single goddamn time. Cal lined up with like 2 or 3 or maybe 5 tight ends and just tried to power it through. And no matter how many times Colorado overloaded exactly where the run was coming and stopped it for a loss or right at the line of scrimmage, they just kept doing it. It was insane.
Yeah.
Cal, like, they missed a couple of field goals. Like, they probably, earmuffs, Colorado fans, I'm not trying to take away from your win. They probably should have won the game. But Bill Musgrave decided it for them. It was incredible. For Colorado's purposes, really good to hear that Deion Smith, who went down with a very scary injury, he was apparently fine in the hospital.
He gets carted off, correct? Yeah.
Carted it off. There was concern. He had the neck brace on, the whole thing. But reportedly he's fine, or as fine as he can be after taking a very scary hit, but not paralyzed or anything. So that's really good. I would say quarterback-wise, Owen McCown got pulled at one point. I don't know if it was hurt or just pulled.
That was weird. Yeah, we're like, because Stroud came in, and then you're like, is he hurt or is this just? I'm not sure why. I never got an explanation on that.
But JT Stroud threw the ball pretty well. He was throwing some rockets out there.
He's got a live arm.
Jack Plummer does not. Jack Plummer is Jake Browning without the talent. But anyway, horrible football game. I've talked about it too much.
This was 3-0 at half. Pretty impressive, right? Cal missed a couple of field goals. They had actually moved the ball like kind of okay, but it was one of those things like they probably should, like you said, they probably should have won this game. Jack Plummer was not very sharp. Colorado, so another interim head coach, Mike Sanford, who got fired at Minnesota last year, is now somehow Newt Rockne. But he really took the team into a bye week. So it was a good time to fire. I mean, the best time to fire Karl Dorrell was, to never have hired him. But, you have to fire him right now. They fired him going into the bye week. It gave Sanford an opportunity. Obviously, the players needed something. They looked like a different team. The defense looked so much better. Instead of giving up, what were they, giving up 48 points a game or something, to Pac-12 teams, they come out and play well. Against a Cal team that did score 49 points just a couple weeks ago, which seems like that was a whole different season. I don't know what that was. But this looked like, you just watch Colorado, they looked like a different team, right? It didn't even seem the same. That's why coaching is so important in college athletics. And these players rallied around. I mean, he changed the whole defense. They added, I think it was more of like they had like kind of a 4-4 front, but they added like the joker position. So there was a lot of pressure on Cal at the line of scrimmage, and they brought guys from different places. So the fact that he was able to change all that stuff up, you really had guys. I mean, there's talented players. They were a bad team, but a lot of it happened to do with what Karl Dorrell was doing. People wanted something to kind of cheer about, right? Like you're just looking for something to cheer about. They rallied around Stanford, who you don't think is a very good coach, but they rallied around him and they played significantly better.
Yeah, I think that's probably the lesson from this game is that Colorado's talent, while meager still in comparison to like the top half of the Pac-12 or whatever, this isn't as untalented a team as like their 2012 team. They were just coached horribly. Karl Dorrell should never again coach college football.
No. He doesn't have to. He can just
go be a receivers coach in the NFL if you need something to do.
He can retire.
Nobody cares about that. But this was not a completely bereft of talent team.
No.
And we saw it a little bit more in this one. The defense. This is the main positive I would take away as a Colorado fan is your defense. For the first time since maybe the first half of TCU, didn't quit. Like they didn't give up because the offense was horrible. And I think that goes to the motivation factors. And because we've seen Colorado do a lot of quitting this year. Like the defense especially has been just like, and you can understand it psychologically. This offense isn't going to do anything. We're just not going to sit out here, getting our butts kicked all game. But this game, I thought they played hard from opening whistle to final.
Yeah, we talked about this too much, but Cal did kick a field goal as time expired to make this go into overtime. So they tried to do some exciting stuff there. That Colorado touchdown was reviewed. It didn't look like a touchdown, and then it became one.
I appreciated them giving that to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But just crazy.
And they actually gave it to all of us because it would have been worse than a single overtime of this game.
Oh my God.
2 of them.
That would have been like, what can we do? Okay, let's go to our number 10 team.
Stanford Cardinal.
And so they're playing the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Ah, me pot of gold. Okay, so this is a perfect Stanford score. They beat Notre Dame 16-14.
So they beat them on the road, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
they must have scored a few touchdowns or something, right? To get a win on the road against a historic program like Notre Dame.
Precisely one.
That's a lot for Stanford.
That actually is a lot for Stanford. I don't have a great explanation for what happened in this game. Notre Dame, I think, is horrible. I think that's pretty obvious now. If you look at what Notre Dame has done this year, just for context before we get too deep into it, I think their defense is pretty good, right? I mean, they held Ohio State to 21. They've yet to allow a team to score more than 32 points, and that was on the road at North Carolina. Every other game has been in the 20s or below. So there's that. Horrible offense. Truly, truly horrible. And like at the level where I know Notre Dame is probably not going to fire their head coach after a single season, but there's too much talent in South Bend to be that awful. So that's a concern. So here's the thing I'd say about Stanford. Their offense has stabilized to an extent. I'm not going to say it's good, but they've stabilized to a certain extent with that slow meshy stupid thing. And Tanner McKee is looking more comfortable in it.
Yeah.
And he's not taking like 9 sacks a game anymore. I think there was only 1 for Notre Dame in this game. So I think that's a positive. I don't know how much else you can take from this stupid game. Stanford was up 10-0 at halftime, and then it was 14-3 really quickly, it seemed, in the second half. 14-13 in the second half. And so Stanford, kicked the field goal to win it. But
Right.
I would say the one takeaway, if you're looking for some hope as a Stanford fan, is that Tanner McKee looks more comfortable doing this thing. I don't think it's the right offense for them. I still think it's very dumb that they went to this, but at least your quarterback isn't looking quite as, out to lunch doing this scheme anymore.
Yeah, you could argue Cal should have got the win there in South Bend, and the fact that Stanford did, pretty amazing. And if you're a Stanford fan, the problem is I think this is going to sort of justify for David Shaw like why they do what they do. Like you're trying. Like we know this is the way to do things. They're going to do it the Stanford way. We're going to win on the road with a 1 touchdown game and kick a bunch of field goals and play conservative towards the end, and maybe they won't score. Like it didn't work against Oregon State, right? Like they end up losing that one because you kind of stuck to your guns. But it worked in this one. It's sort of just like, hey, the 8th time, the 12th time's a charm. We've tried to do this 12 times in a row, and it finally worked. Like, see, that's why we do it this way. And you're kind of like, no, this is not the way to do it. I don't know what this means for Stanford for the rest
I'm not
of the
sure.
season.
I don't think it means much. The one thing I'll say is I think it tips it a little bit towards, the games against, I think they've got ASU this weekend?
Yes, I believe so.
Like they'll have a chance to win that. I think there's a couple of games left where they'll have a chance to win. But I don't think it changes the complexion that much. I don't know how much you can take from Notre Dame. They don't score a lot of points, and Stanford's defense has been awful this year. And so it's hard to quantify exactly whether their defense has improved or they just got lucky going against Notre Dame.
Yeah. This was a weird one, but hey, going into South Bend as a 3-score underdog and you're able to pull out the win. We got this one wrong, obviously. We for the first two, so we had Cal minus 15. That was a terrible pick.
Did that not work out?
That did not work out.
Oh.
We both had Notre Dame minus 16.5. At least that was at home. And
Yeah.
that also did not work out.
You know, it was funny because I remember doing the show last week and we were both like, "Oh yeah, Notre Dame's going to kill them." And then I looked at like what Notre Dame had done, and I'm like, "They're not killing anybody. What am I?
I think
what are
they
we
killed
doing?"
like North Carolina or something.
No, but even that one they won by 13.
Okay. Yeah, this was so Stanford hadn't had an FBS win since they beat Oregon in 2021. It was
Which was one of the funniest games of all time.
yes, 11 games in a row losing to FBS opponents. Of course, the road game at Notre Dame is the one you get. So just
David Shaw's always good for a couple of these. Like, just what? Huh?
you're like, how did this? What the? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Our number 9 team.
Arizona State Sun Devils.
They had a bye week. They had a big win, and then you get a bye week. So we'll see how this impacts the Sun Devils going forward. We have our number 8 team.
Arizona Wildcats.
They went on the road to take on our number 6 team.
Washington Huskies.
All right. So the over on this game, I think, was at like 74, and this blasted through it, which is really incredible. Washington won eventually 49-39. This was 42-39 in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Had potential to get really silly and stupid. Unfortunately, it did not, but it was still pretty silly and stupid. You know that
You
Arizona
were rooting for a lot of silly and stupid. I remember you saw that you were tweeting about that where
I
Washington State.
really
Oregon
wanted
State,
it to
yeah.
happen, and it was not happening with either of these games. So the interesting thing here for me was that Arizona's run defense had been horrible all season coming into this game, and they actually looked improved in this one. You know, they more or less shut down that Washington running game. Now, the Washington's running game wasn't very good, but in replacement, Washington had, I don't know, its best passing game in ever, maybe. My man Penix threw for 516 yards on 44 attempts. So that's almost 12 yards a throw, and had 4 touchdowns. He looked completely back. You know, if you want to get right, do it against Arizona's defense, I guess. And on the other side, you know, Jaden DeLora, I thought he, you know, kind of to that same theory that he has a good game, bad game, good game, bad game. He was pretty bad last week against Oregon. And then this week, I thought he was one of the few reasons that Arizona was in this game. He got a little dinged up late, and they brought in Fafita to basically get sacked, nearly sacked, and then throw one in the dirt. But it was Arizona still had a chance late to make this somewhat interesting a couple minutes ago, and they're driving, but then it just kind of stalled out. I don't know. So I think Washington's defense, I think we can safely say it's not good and bordering on horrible. I think
Secondary bad.
Arizona is sort of similar, except their offense is not as consistent. Washington, they're kind of like a lot of teams in the league this year, just more so. Like, it's all offense, zero defense whatsoever.
Yeah.
Arizona, it's intermittently pretty good offense and then zero defense.
I mean, worse defense. Like,
yeah,
it's
much worse defense, and their offense is not as consistent because they go as DeLora goes, and he's, you know,
He was pretty good in this game,
He's
though.
a really emotional player. When he's like a little bit too amped up, it can be very good. You know, he's playing really explosively, or he can be overthrowing receivers by 10 yards. It was
Johnny Nansen, baby. You gotta love the defensive coordinator.
Yeah, they've dropped off from last year. It feels like defensively, because with Don Brown, you always felt, well, they're well schemed. They just don't have the players. This year, they've got more players, and they don't look like they know what they're doing half the time. So anyway, Arizona, played a competitive game on the road, largely because of their offense, but Washington's was too much, and Arizona's defense was too much to overcome for Arizona.
This game had a combined 1,121 yards. We'll get to the USC Utah game. This had more yards than that, 3 more than that one. There were 62 first downs. Seems like quite a bit of first downs. That's a lot of clock stopping, by the way, when you're moving the time. 7 touchdowns that were at 20 yards or more, and not a single turnover in the game. So Arizona's their 3rd consecutive conference loss, giving up at least 49 points in each of them. So that's That's not good. Their defense is really, really bad. Penix was great. I mean, throwing for 1 million yards. But I thought Delora, played well too.
He did.
This was a close game. We both got this one right. We had Arizona plus 15.5. I think Washington was up at some point, maybe more than that, but then Arizona would keep scoring, and there just wasn't a lot of stoppages. Like no one was really getting stopped all that much.
Yeah, it was like 42-24 going into the fourth.
Yeah. So yeah, it's one of those things. If you're Arizona, there's progress. You like that their offense is feisty. You got some really good players. The defense needs to kind of get fixed. You'll probably win a couple games at home. I don't think you're going to go to Seattle and get a win. And that's sort of just where you are as
looking at the rest of the season for Arizona, obviously they'll get a win this weekend against next weekend against USC. But then it's a tough one at Utah, a tough one at UCLA, and then it's Wazoo and Arizona State. They got to sweep through those, and obviously the win over USC in 2 weeks. That'll get them to bowl eligibility.
How many points is USC going to score on Arizona?
USC might score 60. They might go 60 burger on them.
Wow. Yeah, but what would you say entertaining factor of this one?
It was fun. I had a good time watching. It was markedly similar to the Cal game for Arizona, actually, because they just couldn't stop them for whatever reason. And so even though their offense was good enough that they should have been in any game, their defense just being completely incompetent. And this is the thing with hiring Johnny Nansen is you're going to get recruiting, but you're also getting a guy who I think had never coordinated a defense before this year. Or if he had, it had been at like the high school level maybe. It's, you get what you pay for.
Yeah. So 1-3 in conference. So the win over Colorado, 43-20, that was great. But the lot we talked about the Cal game, it was 49-31. So giving up 49 to Cal, 49-22 to Oregon, and then 49-39 to Washington. So that's a lot of 49s that you're giving up in conference. Like that's too many. That's too many 49s.
Yeah, you don't want to. You want to give up fewer 49s. I think that's a good rule of thumb. If you give up 49 points, you're more than likely going to lose.
Yeah, not so good. Okay,
unless you're Tennessee.
And yeah, that's true. And you beat,
but it's a Pac-12 rule, not an SEC rule.
Right.
Okay, we got it.
Former Pac-12 kicker was the game winner for that one too. In that one. Okay, let's go on. Let's go to our number 7 team,
Washington State Cougars.
Full on meow for that one, and our number 5 team,
Oregon State Beavers.
So there were like 10 minutes left to go in the second quarter, and do you want to know how many yards? And I realize I'm adding an S there, but do you want to know how many yard Washington State had of offense at that point?
How many?
A single one.
What was your favorite yard?
It was so Cam Ward at that point was 0 for 4. He'd also taken at least 1 or 2 sacks. So Oregon State, I gotta give some mad props to Oregon State because I'm still not convinced they have a quarterback right now. You tell me something called Ben Gulbranson is their quarterback. Sure. Okay. I'll believe that when I see it. But they're still beating teams. Like they're still finding ways to win. And this one, it's not just that they found a way to win. They found a way to smoke Washington State. This game was never close. It's 24-10 is what they won, but this was at arm's length the entire way. Oregon State was just, completely shutting down this offense. So here's the thing. Cam Ward has some bad receivers who are not catching footballs. He also has a bad offensive line. But I would also add, I don't think he is good. Thoughts, comments, concerns?
Who's good?
Cam Ward. He's out there like taking Caleb Williams sacks. Like he's out there like just like hanging out in the, I'm going to take a 10-yard sack now.
He's not been as good as I thought he'd be.
He's taken 2019 DTR sacks.
That was a lot. He's had some
like
flashes.
Caleb Williams against Utah.
He took a 20-yarder in that one.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, but you're gonna give him props. He can just get away from most of them. He didn't get away from that one. Yeah, Ward is not getting away from as many as he should be if you're going to take those kind of prolific sacks. But there's too many big negative plays. He'd have to be a lot more explosive to take that many, and you're just not seeing it. And this was another example of Oregon State looking like dog do on the road, and then looking like
Supermen at home.
in Corvallis in half a stadium.
Yeah.
So
Damian Martinez, by the way, that dude can run.
freshman.
Yeah.
I think I voted for him freshman of the week. in
One,
Pac-12.
once again, just Oregon State just finding a running back. Yeah.
Well, I mean, when you have a good offensive line and you have a good scheme, you can plug in guys there. But they've done a really good job of that. And having like a talented freshman, I think, certainly helps. But man, I really thought Washington State was going to come out. So this one, we had two games that we picked differently. You had Oregon State -3. I took the Cougs, thought they'd keep it close. They did not. They are really having a hard time scoring on the road. You're talking about Cameron Ward,
They're having a hard time scoring, period.
especially on the road. They have 3 road games, 41 total points. That's not good. I thought they moved the ball okay at times, but when they weren't getting those negative plays. But they kept getting the negative plays. I think they only got 3 trips into the red zone. So it was bad. It was a bad offensive performance for Wazoo. And then, Ben Branson looked like someone that you could be a serviceable quarterback.
I wouldn't go that far. No, he was pretty bad in this game. I mean, he's averaging 5.9 yards a throw through a pick. Only completed 50% of his passes. I don't think they got competent quarterback play. I think they got below average play. It's just I think Jonathan Smith's a really good coach.
Yeah.
And they've developed. They have an identity on defense that. Even though they're not qualitatively great, I actually think they're one of the top half defenses in the league this year.
Yeah, no, they definitely, and they've had some games where they played really well. We got a comment, Ben Branson will be the next Chase Garbers. Wait and see. Now, I don't think he's going to be MVP of the league for 5 years running.
No way.
Like Chase Garbers was.
I sincerely, I don't think he's any good.
I think Chase Garbers just got better seeing how bad Cal is now.
Right.
It's like Dalton Kincaid catching passes after the game. We have to give more accolades to Chase Garbers for how bad Cal is playing right now. But
and Brian says Penix was huge this weekend, and I agree.
I could put that up there. Hold on for you. Boom. Nice comment, Brian.
Penix was huge.
Any other thoughts on this one? Good win. So Oregon State was dead to Stanford last week, right? Now they're 5-2. They get this win. Who knows what can happen? But they should have lost last week, did not, and now they're gonna be bowl eligible pretty quick. And I predicted them to win 9 or 10 games or something. So I don't know if they're gonna get there.
Yeah,
but
look at what they have left. So right now they're at 5-2.
Yeah,
they've got Colorado at home. Okay. They've got at Washington. I think that's going to be a playable game.
Sure.
They could win that. They got Cal at home, worst team in the Pac-12, worst team in the history of football. Then it's at ASU. Another winnable road game.
Interim head coach.
And then it's Oregon at home.
Yeah.
Look, in aggregate, probably at least 3-2. And you could
upside is better.
Yeah, you've got some upside on 3-2.
Yeah,
especially if they get a little bit healthier at the quarterback position.
The Beavs. I was a little worried about that because looking at our picks and everything, I'm also looking at. I think we're doing a pretty good job of predicting where the wins or losses were going to be, what the overall record for these teams are going to be. We've been pretty good at that, and I was a little worried because I had there was a lot of upside for me with Oregon State, but to get to 5 wins,
not getting the USC win was bad because that was a 50-50 game.
Yeah,
and they could have pulled it off.
But they were going to lose to Stanford, which you shouldn't have lost to, and then get that win. Now you got a couple interim head coaches coming up on the schedule. Yeah, there's some winnable games. So yeah, I think they're not going to get to. I think I said 10. I don't remember, but they're this could easily be a 9-win Oregon State team.
So is that it, or do we have any more games to cover?
We have more.
Oh, okay.
Let's see. We talked about Washington. We have our number 4 team,
Utah Utes.
Now this is what I didn't even do this. This is David, and our number 3 team, even though they lost,
USC Trojans.
Well, did they really lose, or did the refs take it away from them? Come on, Ryan.
So
clearly in a just society, USC would be undefeated right now and would have beaten everyone by, I don't know, 4, maybe 5 touchdowns if only the refs weren't pitted against them at all times.
I would say you're close.
Like the Washington State game. Like, I can't believe that they only gave that offensive lineman targeting for that. They should have not only ejected him from that game, but every subsequent game. He had the temerity to hit a USC player on his front side.
So I see what you're doing, but unfortunately, it's not going to work.
And like
we're going to talk about this game, David,
all right. So
where the officiating
USC
was awful.
USC doesn't, they don't get called for that safety, and everyone's complaining about that, right? They don't get called for that holding in the end zone, and everyone's complaining about that. And you're like,
David,
well, of course. Why would they ever get called for holding in the end zone?
Do you want me to mute you? Because I'll do that. You're trying to mitigate the fact that unfortunately, the result of the game was altered because of officiating.
Oh, God. Is this the first time in Pac-12 history that's happened?
It never said that. You can stop.
Is this the only time it's ever?
So, good thing I have control. Yes. I think Lincoln Riley said it best that the officiating in the game was poor, saying it was awful. I don't think it was biased. Unfortunately, the calls became biased. No, you don't get it. You get to stop, brother. I'll just put it on me. So you're off screen and off mic. Unfortunately, the calls, the big calls went against USC, and it did change the outcome of the game. Utah had 2 yards of penalties in the first half.
If I do a jerking off motion, is it on camera?
You can't see anything. No, you can't. You're off camera and you're off mic.
I can't do the jerking
So
off
it's
motion?
good. Yeah, you can do it, but no one can see it because the one on camera. But that doesn't. USC there was probably 10 single things they could have done differently that were in their control to win this game. Utah didn't have a lead until there was 50 seconds left or whatever. Like they didn't take a lead until the final seconds of the game. But it does. The officiating unfortunately took away from the game. Yeah, it took away from the game. There was bad calls on both sides, like the stupid, calling a timeout in the middle of a play, giving USC more time. The problem is that didn't change the result. There was no scoring on that one.
The only call that took away points was the missed hold.
No, that is not true. And there was missed holds. Oh my God! There was no hold? There was holding on. No, there was calls that could have taken away points on Cam Rising's run in. There's a picture of the guy completely getting held on the 2-point conversion. So you were talking about holds on both sides. You can call holds on every play, but taking away an interception that led to a touchdown and then another phantom roughing the passer call that Brock Heward was all over on the thing. The point is, and then we're going to go back to this. Here, I'll put you back. That's not why USC lost. The officiating was so bad that it did alter the result. The result was changed because of the officiating, which sucks, especially when it's the marquee game.
All right, so I'll make a sincere point here.
Yeah.
Okay. Was the officiating on the roughing the passers both pretty bad? Yes. Agreed. 100% agreed. Here's the thing. What is unknowable and unquantifiable is how that actually affects the outcome of the game. So here's the thing. Even if USC gets that pick in the end zone, it's at the 20-yard line. There were enough drives in this game. It wasn't every drive, and certainly USC was scoring at will for a portion of this game, but there were enough drives in this game where USC stalled out. So
they punted twice.
But that's enough. I mean, it could have happened again, and from the 20-yard line, the odds are, 50-50 probably.
No, they're not 50.
All right, well, what are the drives?
They were definitely not 50-50. The problem, like that was if USC goes up 21-0 there, it's a completely different game.
Maybe.
But
here's the thing.
But the point is, like, USC they made enough mistakes on their own that they had control over that they could have won the game.
Was one of the mistakes never covering the tight end?
Brent Keefe was not there.
Correct.
The best tight end for Utah.
But did they make Dalton Kincaid look
like... Dalton Kincaid was like...
Former FCS walk-on, correct?
He looked like Travis Kelce.
Mm-hmm. And he's a blocking tight end, right?
He was targeted 16 times, caught 16 balls. I was there. I saw it. It was crazy. Great environment. I think the must was going. It was a record crowd for Utah. Even if the officiating didn't change the result, which you can argue, I definitely would argue that it just screwed the game up. I
right,
was
so-
talking with like Canzano a little bit about this. He's like, the referee was talking himself in circles. Like he was like making things up.
Okay,
You're like,
all right,
what
all right.
is going on?
Two things going on here. One, no one is going to dispute that the reffing was horrible in this game.
Yes.
No one should dispute that. It was bad. But here's the thing. There was enough stupid crap on both sides of this, and I'm not saying both were equally impactful.
Right.
I'm just saying
There was enough
stupid
sides.
crap on both sides that the part that drives me kind of crazy is the conspiratorial talk that this is somehow biased against USC, because my takeaway from it is this is the simple incompetence of Pac-12 refereeing. And it happens, and sometimes you're going to feel screwed. Sometimes the other team's going to feel screwed. I'm sure Washington, and this is why I brought up the Washington State thing, I'm sure that fan base felt just as screwed last weekend, but they do not have a media base that's going to amplify it to the extent that USC's is going to after this
Dude,
game.
it's not the media base. Brock Heward was saying on the national broadcast. Like, I'm listening to national podcasts, and they're bringing it up. Like,
What was Wazoo
Washington
on?
State-
What
Washington-
channel was Wazoo on?
They lost by 15.
Was that on the Pac-12 network?
They lost by 15 points.
Was that on the Pac-12 network? Wazoo at
No,
at
it was
USC.
Fox.
Fox or Fox Sports 1?
Yeah, it was Fox. I believe it was Fox. That was a 15-point game. This wasn't a 1-point game that the one team was winning the entire time and then loses
Well,
at the
okay,
end.
so yeah,
it's changing things.
Yeah, okay.
But it was bad. You would have for the Pac-12 to be biased, the refs to be biased. You have to have a level of competency that you could actually try to alter the game.
All right,
they
so
are
we're-
not
we're in
competent
agreement.
enough.
We're in
They're-
agreement on
Yeah,
that.
they're not competent enough to do that.
Yeah, it's sort of like the old theory about like governmental conspiracies.
You're like,
No, they're not competent enough to do this.
Exactly.
They
These
can't
refs
take
are
care
not-
of this.
These refs are not competent enough
Yeah.
to be.
So,
Now, like if UCLA goes to Oregon this weekend and gets like jobbed all the time, you're like, you're
well,
gonna
so I
question
think
it.
the
But
Pac-12's priority at this point is money, and I think the reality is their bias in this game, if they had one, was going to be in favor of USC, not
Yeah.
against them, because I think whatever spite they might have, at the end of the day, a team making the CFP is more important than any of that spite.
Yeah.
So I don't think any of that is true. And the thing that I would take away from this game, if I were a USC fan, is the correctable failures
Yes.
rather than the stuff that you can't control. And the thing is, here's what I would concede. USC got a little bit more jobbed than Utah did in this game. I don't think it was significant enough to because at the end of the day, a penalty doesn't give a team points. The only missed penalty, and I do mean this sincerely, that actually affected the scoreboard and not, yardage and additional opportunities, to use that stupid Heward saying, bites at the apple, because that's what those roughing the passers did. They gave Utah 2 more bites at the apple, so to speak. The only one that actually removed points from the board was when they missed the holding in the end zone, because that was no.
They missed the holding on the Cam Rising 2-point conversion. That's the same thing.
Okay, fine.
I mean, that's
that.
but you can look at missed holding all the time.
But all that did was remove a bite at the apple, because it didn't. So the penalty itself there isn't affecting the points. A penalty
It
that
does.
No.
They scored 2 points.
They scored 2 points on a penalty, but then that would have just redone the down. You know what I mean? It would have just changed the play. It doesn't actually remove or add points. A holding in the end zone is a safety. And so if they had called holding, that would have been 2 points.
Okay.
That's my point. But anyway, the point is, all of that is it's the stuff you can't control. The stuff you can control, Lincoln Riley completely screwing up clock management on
100%.
Utah's last drive. Like, that's something that's controllable, and it's not based on players playing. Players playing are going to make mistakes. A head coach getting paid that much money shouldn't fuck that up.
Yeah.
And he did. And I don't know how much he owned up to it. I read the thing, and he said it was like kind of a 50-50 call.
He said it was
none of that. No,
I was on the field, and I was like, "There's no way USC should be. USC should be calling timeouts. There's no way you can let this."
And
go
Caleb
run down.
Williams is really good, and I still felt with 48 seconds to go, he had a good chance. I thought they were stupid to run the ball out of the end zone, but with 48 seconds, I still thought he had a chance with a couple of timeouts. But the chances would have been better with a minute 30 and no timeouts. Time matters more than timeouts at that point.
Here's Alex. Hold on. David bringing facts, Ryan bringing feelings. No, this is not about feelings. This is the game I was there. I saw. There were facts. Like, if you're going to tell me that USC gets the interception in the end zone, that doesn't change the game because of a bad call, like that's just something. I mean, that's a fact. Like, that's a real thing.
Yeah. I just think, maybe like, would Clay Helton have fucked that up so bad on that final drive for Utah? Would he have messed up the timeout usage? Actually, the funny thing about the Clay Helton thing is he wouldn't have had any timeouts at that point, because they would have had to spend them on 12 men on the field on special teams.
Oh, they would have had 12 men. Oh, yeah. Greg says, roughing the passer was pretty bad. Yeah, that's the other thing. When you watch like the SEC games, I tweeted this out. Like they showed one like complete targeting in the Tennessee-Alabama game. I think I tweeted like in the Pac-12, not only would it have been triple targeting, but the player would have been expelled from school. Like, and that's not even a penalty in the SEC. I just want, in general, I don't want to see the one game that's two ranked opponents playing each other dominated by officiating. And unfortunately, this was. They were reviewing things that weren't targeting. The ref was on the mic all the time, and it takes it away.
There was one sequence where the head coaches each had to go on the field to talk to the ref for like 3 minutes on like, I think 3 straight plays.
And then they reviewed like something else about like what, like
the interception was ridiculous. So two things. One, I think it's a kind of a missed spot in the rules that if there's a penalty and the other team intercepts it, they can just run the ball for a while and the clock should run.
It should have been 8 seconds.
That is in the rules.
Yeah, it should have been 8 seconds. There should not have put more time on the clock.
No, there shouldn't have been more. It should have actually been like if you were going to pick a time, it should have been less time because the clock stopped for a period. But whatever. That stuff is, because Utah won, nobody cares. But if Utah had lost that because they get 2 plays instead of
that would have
one,
been egregious.
It would have been horrible. And I think that
would have changed the outcome of the game. A terrible call.
This is what I'll say, just being impartial. Is whoever lost this game was going to have a beef because of the refs. And I think USC is legitimate. Those roughing the passer calls, they did affect the game. I don't know. Again, it's kind of unquantifiable because one of them was so early that it's hard to say, well, what would the complexion of the game look like at that point? And Utah had one at the very end, because if that had led to Utah losing, that one would have been easier to say, oh, well, holy shit. Like this is the thing that affected the game. So
there was a fourth quarter roughing the passer too. So there was an early one.
We can all shake hands on one thing. Pac-12 refs are a beautiful thing. They bring something to our game that other leagues just simply don't have, and we should all appreciate them more.
I think Kegs and Eggs tweeted something like, every conference fans complain about their refs, but there's something always been about the Pac-12 refs that they seem like they're on acid, and it was kind of funny. I was like, yeah, that's pretty true. I just don't want to see like this weekend when there's only 4 games. The marquee game, Oregon and UCLA. If it's dominated by Pac-12 refs again, you're like, what are you doing? Like, let the dudes play. We don't want to see flags on every play and all that kind of stuff.
We will. It's the Pac-12. Come on.
But for the Utes, holy cow. I mean, there has been some criticism of the way Cam Rising was playing. He played lights out, almost 500 yards total, ran the ball really well. He ran for 3 touchdowns. USC could not stop.
Yeah, no, he went full warrior poet in this one. The 2 plays from essentially the one to score the touchdown and then the 2-point conversion, missed hold for sure. But the read on those plays, what he was doing with his legs in this one, when they needed a big play, he was always there. He would
just do it.
Just a really incredible game from him.
Caleb Williams was outer worldly, 5 touchdowns. I mean, he was just spinning around.
He's a freak show back there. Now, he's got to learn still a little bit because he's taken some sacks that he doesn't need to take, but there's so much upside there. Like what he's doing downfield with that arm, it's nuts.
It was insane what he was able to do. They probably should have ran the ball more, but you score 42 points. You're like, they scored as many as UCLA did against Utah, but just didn't give up that many. These were the 2 top scoring defenses in the Pac-12.
Yeah.
There wasn't a whole lot of defense being played.
Again, remember the thing with the scoring defenses, and this is where I made the point before the UCLA-Utah game. Utah played Oregon State with Nolan getting hurt. Ben Gulbranson kept him to 16 points. Then they played dead Arizona State, kept him to 13. San Diego State does not have an offense. They scored 7. And Southern Utah's an FCS school. They haven't played good offenses. They've now played 2, and they gave up 42 points each time.
Yeah.
And for USC, it's a little similar. It's not entirely the same thing, but it's a little bit similar. Utah's got the first really, really good offense that they've played, and Utah scored 43 points.
Yeah. So we'll see. But it gives Utah life again. This was a must-win game for the Utes, probably more than USC. if you're talking like, you get a 1-point loss on the road, that environment was great. I mean, they had a moment of loudness instead of silence, and that was cool. With the number 22 and the hand painted stuff, like that was really neat, and it was a record setting crowd for Rice-Eccles Stadium and stuff. So just a cool environment. I'm looking forward to this weekend because it's going to be a really fun one in Autzen with college game day and all that kind of stuff too. So hopefully the refs don't screw that one up. We just get to see like a fun kind of game. But what do you think about Utah now? Like, there's 4 teams that are basically competing for the 2 spots.
I think there are 4 teams that are almost exactly the same. I think it's 4 teams with really good offenses, and I think you'd walk away from this Utah game even without Keithy. They've got a really good offense. You put Cam Rising back there, he's going to make some things happen, and they've got enough weapons in the receiving game. And, I mean, Tavion Thomas is still not at the fullest of his powers. If he continues to round into form, they've got a really good offense. USC has a really, really good offense. UCLA has a really, really good offense, and Oregon has a really, really good offense. Do any of those teams have a defense? File not found. But they've all got really good offenses, and so I think it's going to be a lot of fun, high-scoring games between these teams. Yeah. And I'm expecting another one this weekend.
I am too. All right. What was I going to say with the? There was Utah. We still have 2 teams left. The 2 teams were on a bye. Our number 2 team,
Oregon Ducks,
and our number 1 team,
UCLA Bruins.
And of course, they're going to play
this
weekend. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Okay, we're like 56. Let's take a quick break, and we'll come back. And was there anything else on that we were going to discuss on this one?
I think we got it all out.
Yeah. So Utah, first time they got back-to-back wins against USC since 1915, 1916.
Good God.
So good, and I got this one right. So you were like Utah was going to win by 70, but it was 3.5 points. I took the points.
Good teams win. Great teams cover.
USC covered this one. It was funny when he went for 2. When Kyle Whittingham went for 2, I'm like, I got the cover no matter what. Like, it's pretty good.
I was so mad.
You needed like a tie.
I needed a tie in overtime.
And then overtime. Yeah.
I was hoping for the pick 6 on because pick 6s happen a lot on potential game-winning drives. So I was hoping for it.
There could have been something like that. There was the pick, and there was callback. Okay, let's take a quick break, and we'll be back in a minute. All right.
How was your break?
It was pretty good.
Yeah.
How about yours?
That's great.
We only got 4 games to preview this week. We got byes. USC on a bye, Washington State on a bye, Utah on a bye, and Arizona on a bye. So we got 4 games, and we got to start with the best one. 2 top 10 teams. College game day, first trip to the West Coast. It's going to be a good one. We just played these sounds for you, but it's
UCLA Bruins
on the road taking on
Oregon Ducks.
Number 9 versus number 10 because for some goddamn reason TCU jumped both these teams. 12:30 p.m. in Eugene, Oregon. On Big Fox.
Big Fox.
6-0 Bruins, number 9 in the country, taking on the number 10 Ducks, 5-1. Oregon is a 6-point home favorite. UCLA has only played 1 road game so far at Colorado. Doesn't really count. It was Carl Durrell, Colorado. We'll say it was BKDF before Carl Durrell's firing.
Gotcha.
So UCLA hasn't really experienced a road environment, and boy howdy, what a road environment to experience. Autzen Stadium, one of the loudest environments in the Pac-12.
Right. You've been talking some trash, I think, against the Ducks.
Yeah. But look, Twitter me versus podcast me versus actual preview me. These are all different deals. I contain many multitudes. All right, so UCLA and Oregon both have really good offenses. I think their offenses. So Oregon's is they have a really good run game, but I would also say Bo Nix has been a lot better than anyone reasonably could have predicted based off of his Auburn performance.
Yes.
UCLA, Dorian Thompson-Robinson is playing better than he's ever played. They're not having to throw deep too much, but it's really they're not having to. They're throwing intermediate to short really, really well, and guys are making plays. And their run game is very good. Zach Charbonnet is one of the best running backs in the league. Both offenses, I think, are going to be able to move the ball, score at will. Defensively, I think UCLA is going to be able to take advantage of Oregon's pass defense. I think Oregon might have to get a little bit more out of its comfort zone and try to attack UCLA's pass defense. Because I think UCLA's run defense at this point, you have to concede, it's decent. I don't know if it's faced a team as good as this one, but it's still decent. So with that, I think I'm going to take UCLA +6. I don't know if I'm taking UCLA to win at this point. 6 just feels like a lot. I think this feels more like a field goal game.
Interesting. All right. Just watching what the Pac-12 teams have done when they go on the road, they just look like different teams. If this was like 7.5, I would take UCLA. But it's the fact that it's under a touchdown. I'm going to take the Ducks here. Just seeing what these home teams are able to do. Both teams coming off a bye, that can change things. We've seen teams play a lot better, coming off bye weeks. We saw what Colorado was able to do. But I just feel like this road thing is real. The fact that Washington State goes in and loses by 14 to Oregon State is just being on the road, and that's not that far. I think the Ducks are going to, score a bunch of points. UCLA can control the clock. Their offense has been really good, but I'll take the Ducks here and lay the 6 and see what happens.
Hell yeah.
All right. We got our next game.
Arizona State Sun Devils.
On the road, taking on
Stanford Cardinal.
And thus begins the slate of games I have no feel for. 1 p.m. on the Pac-12 network. ASU, when last we saw ASU, they were beating Washington. Not blowing them out, but scoring 45. Stanford, when last we saw them, they were somehow, I would describe it as lose-winning against Notre Dame.
Yes.
I still don't think Stanford is any good. Arizona State might have a pulse. Give me ASU.
Yeah.
+3.
I'm going to agree with you here. God, it's tough. But you're getting points on the road, at least. You're getting 3 points. I think you're going to get that. Stanford's getting like this a lot of credit for going on the road and beating Notre Dame. This isn't going to be a road environment for Arizona State. They look much better. The last time we saw them, going into the bye week. I think Arizona State's going to get this one done on the road. I can feel it being a close game. I don't see Stanford sort of like blowing them out. So you're getting 3 points here. I'm going to take Arizona State, and I'm going to agree with you on this one.
All right.
Next up, we've got, fresh off a win,
Colorado Buffaloes.
on the road, taking on
Oregon State Beavers.
All right, it's a 5 p.m. on the Pac-12 network. Colorado at Oregon State. Oregon State's a 24.5-point favorite. We have now gotten past the point of the season where it was easy to pick Colorado because
24.5 points?
It was a bit.
No, 24 we have, right? Or you have 24.5?
Oh, it moved to 24.5. So let's just go
24.5?
Yeah,
Okay.
24.5. Literally since I wrote in that an hour ago.
Wow.
So it was easy to pick Colorado, easy to pick against them because it was essentially a meme. It was a bit that was also making us money. The question is whether Colorado's improvement is simply a Cal effect or whether it was real.
Yeah.
And I think I'm going to split the difference, and 24.5 points is too much. And I'm just going to take Colorado plus 24.5.
How? Yes. I mean, Oregon State scored 24 points last week at home.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of points. Like, if Colorado scores a couple times, like I don't know. And their defense looked much better.
Yeah, the only team Oregon State's beaten by that much is Montana State at home.
Yeah, and Colorado looked like if this was 3 weeks ago, Colorado with Carl Durrell, I would seriously consider taking Oregon State. But
they showed a pulse.
They not just like that was a good defensive performance. Like Oregon State's been pretty shaky on offense, and that's just so many points. I just couldn't even believe when I saw that, and the fact that it moved up to 24.5. We could easily lose this pick for sure, but I don't know how I could. My head would not hit the pillow, and I wouldn't be like, I cannot do this. Like 24.5 points for a Colorado team that's actually showed some improvement after the bye week, interim head coach. Yeah, give me the Buffs in this one. I don't know what else we could do. All right, the last one we've got
Washington Huskies.
On the road, taking on the aforementioned
California Golden Bears.
7:30 on ESPN. Washington 5-2 on the road at Berkeley. They're 3-3. Washington is a 7.5 point favorite. Cal's horrible. Their offense, I think, is ill-equipped to take advantage of Washington's deficits. And I think Washington, Penix has gotten right. He was able to stand erect in the pocket and deliver some balls. So I think I'm going to take Washington minus the 7.5 here.
Yeah, I will too. The half makes me a little bit worried. And does Cal kind of get back? Do they get right? I don't know how you bounce back from that. Like, who did Cal lose to last year? Arizona, 1-11. Like, you gave Arizona their only win last year. I get it was COVID. That shouldn't have happened and all that stuff. But now you've given Colorado its only win. You've ruined our 0-12 dreams, all of that stuff. I don't know if you bounce back from that. Like, there are losses that you can rally around and bounce back from. I'm not sure if you can from this one. So a Washington team that we've seen their offense sort of go away at times, but they've scored points, right? I think they're going to score a bunch of points on Cal. And even though it's on the road, and I don't like this, laying all these points on the road. That's just a lot. So it's just a lot, I think, for Cal to overcome. I don't think it's going to be some crazy home environment. So give me the Dogs.
All right. So we only disagree on the UCLA-Oregon game.
I know. I don't feel great about that one either.
No, I don't think.
Just the road, like the road stuff is like every time the home team wins, like they just keep winning in the Pac-12.
My context for it is basically what USC and Utah did this past weekend.
Maybe
because
close
however
like
you slice it, it was like pretty close to a 50-50 game. Once Utah got it rolling, it was just score, 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 score,
Yeah.
score, score. So I'm expecting sort of like that kind of ping pong battle, and it's just going to be who breaks serve first, and if nobody does, who's willing to go for two at the end, So it might be a touchdown or it might be a field goal, but I don't see this being much more than a one-score game.
Yeah. Okay. I don't think we had really any. If you have questions in the chat, just put questions there and I'll look at it. But we've got some voicemails and we got some emails and stuff to get to. So let's jump into questions. First, we got this one.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Perk. I'm sure you guys might have talked about it a few weeks ago when you were talking about kind of David Shaw and the Stanford job. But I was wondering, in the event that they do fire him or move on from him this year, although I doubt that's unlikely after they beat Notre Dame, I was wondering, what type of candidate or who are the candidates that you think would be really good for the Stanford job? I know you guys kind of addressed Colorado and such, but kind of wondering what you guys' thoughts were on Sanford. Thanks, guys.
Yeah,
I don't actually know who would be good at this point. I think it's got to be somebody who's I think the reality is you've got to drag Stanford's kicking and screaming into the 21st century of football, NIL era and all that kind of stuff. So you got to have somebody who's like willing and able to fight against the administration and fight, all of these entities. Because that's the only way Stanford remains competitive is if they're willing to do those sorts of things.
Yeah.
And so I don't know who that is.
He just got like a 10-year extension by beating Notre Dame. So I don't know what you're talking about. It's not been broken yet, but that's what my sources have told me. I don't think we don't even need to talk about this, Perk. He just beat Notre Dame. Like, they weren't going to fire him if they went 1-11, and now they beat Notre Dame.
There's no way they're firing him. But if they were eventually going to move on, it needs to be, and that's the thing, is the entity hiring him would be the entity that he would be fighting against. So I just, really it depends on what directionally Stanford wants to do.
Yeah.
Because they might want to move down a level. They might want to move Ivy League. They might want to never participate in this stuff. And if they don't, okay. But what that means is either you're going to be non-competitive in FBS or drop down a level.
That's right. Yeah. Stanford has to make a decision on where you want to go because college football is changing. Stanford hasn't. I don't think you can survive without being able to not only bring in transfers, but you can't even keep your seniors that graduate and then they want to do grad school and they can't get into your own grad school. So I think that's a problem. EVS had a little comment. Was that an actual Stanford fan calling in? No, it wasn't.
Yeah.
Perk is not. He's Washington, right?
No, he's a Ohio State fan.
Ohio State fan. But this is.
Hello, Ryan. Hello, Sith Lord Dave. Well. It's halftime of the Notre Dame Stanford game. Expectations could not be higher for the Cardinal. In fact, I'm so confident I'm not even going to watch the second half. Our defensive personnel, our schemes, our lockdown running game, and our incredible game management and play calling. This game is over 10-0. So just wanted to find out, do either of you feel bad for calling Stanford but? Because this is clearly already a victory, a gutsy victory at that. And would you be willing to call Stanford gut with a G from here on out? Keep it mediocre, boys.
Nice.
The gut does lead to the butt.
It does. It's on the way.
Same items pass through it.
Just they're in different form.
Right.
At one point versus other.
I mean, will they move further up the gastrointestinal tract as the season goes on?
We have Stanford at number 10. Like they're almost to single digits in the power ranking. So I think that's something. But yes, that's an actual Stanford fan calling in.
Yeah, that was beautiful. All right. What's our first actual question?
Our first question is, I think it's from Mike. Ryan and Dave, question for both of you, mostly Ryan as an SC alum. Obviously, USC has a good team with some great players, good coaching. However, there are some other factors that impact the outcome, and they often do. So he's talking about this is from last week, the Washington State.
You skipped
USC
over
game.
a bunch of questions.
Did I?
Oh, wait, no, you're good. My bad. You're good.
I think so.
No, you're good.
So he was talking about the LA Times wrote each of the USC touchdown drives was benefited by a well-timed penalty. And then someone in the LA Times also wrote, number 6 Trojans were lucky, and they were good Saturday. Good fortune, most notably when 2 Cougar penalties nullified and an apparent interception in the third quarter. He's like, I like your opinion on the relative contributions of USC's win on Saturday. Good play, refereeing, just plain luck. Thanks, Mike.
This email was 7 days ago from a Washington State fan. Interesting.
Right, but this was after we recorded.
Right. But it's about the refereeing potentially tilting the outcome away from their beloved Cougs and towards the USC Trojans.
Right. I would say that the refereeing in that game was bad, and it favored USC.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it directly, because of the 15 points, it didn't. I don't think it changed the outcome.
Oh, but when did these penalties happen? Did they happen early enough that it could have changed the outcome?
I mean, it would alter the score. I don't think it would directly have changed the outcome.
Oh,
but it would benefit. It certainly benefited USC over Washington State in that one.
Okay.
But they end up, if you're talking about losing by 15 and you're like, hey, the calls were bad, you lose by. I mean, I just think it's different. I mean, obviously that's different. But yes, I think this was one where we saw incompetent refereeing, and the majority of them benefited USC over Washington State.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Interesting.
Yes.
This is from Greg Penix.
Yeah.
I agree with Dave on the pronunciation of Penix. If there were 2 N's, then it would be Pennix. It's like the difference between dinner and diner. Thank you, Greg.
I thought you would love that one.
Exactly my point. Exactly my point.
Because you have like the literary rules.
The only change here is the X instead of the S. So I'm just following what my guide, what my gut, what my Stanford gut, my butt is telling me here.
Stanford gut butt. Nice. Okay.
My gut butt.
We had 2 text messages from the same number. One from Larry Bagina.
Larry Bagina.
Personally, I have no issues with Dave's pronunciations of Michael Penix's name. And then from Johnny Hildo, I'm very disappointed in Dave's childish pronunciation of Michael Penix's name.
Beautiful.
Nice. Back-to-back text there.
All right, we've got another one. Charbs, so Charbonnet, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, or Jake Bobo, or Caleb Williams, Jordan Addison, and Travis Dye. Let me know which one you'd rather have.
Ooh, so the trio, Charbonnet, DTR, and Mike Bobo, the Duke transfer.
Pre-Jordan Addison injury, obviously.
Yes.
All right, so and you can describe me as biased or whatever. I would take DTR over Caleb Williams this year.
Ooh.
I would take Charbonnet over Travis Dye, and I would take Jordan Addison over Jake Bobo.
Gotcha. But as a trio.
As a trio,
I'm still going the USC trio. I think the Addison over Bobo is
Addison over Bobo is significant because it adds a weapon. Like what they were doing with Addison on the play he got hurt on, for example, the end around stuff. Like you can't do that with Jake Bobo.
Right.
And I don't know. I think it's pretty close to a wash, but
yeah, I think it's. I mean, obviously, all three of those guys.
Yeah.
Both sides.
What are we talking about here? It's three really good players.
Yeah,
on both
but
teams.
a good question. I like it.
This is from Frank in Sacramento. UCLA good. Oh wait, this is you, isn't it?
Okay, it might be UCLA good.
There you go.
Question for Dave: how did UCLA get 2/3 of their games at home this season? They got to be good for 2 wins above the predicted. That's got to be good for 2 wins above the predicted rate. Frank and Sacramento. Well, UCLA bailed out of the Michigan game, right, or something?
I'll fight you. No, Michigan bailed on that game, so UCLA kind of went scrambling. They were
that
already...
might hurt Michigan too, because they're up there now, and everyone's like their out of conference schedule sucks, which it does.
Yeah.
They could have been playing UCLA early on. Like that would be a huge.
That would have been a huge marquee game,
right?
Yeah, so they bailed on the game, so UCLA was kind of scrambling late, and that's when they added the FCS opponent. I would say the schedule, it was going to be 2 home and a road, but that still would have left them with 7 home games. So it was going to be balanced in favor of home, and sometimes they've done some really stupid stuff when they have the 5-4 split in conference where they add 2 road games in non-conference, but they weren't doing that this year. So it was just kind of luck of the draw that they ended up with 8. But yeah, I mean, I think it's benefited them. I don't think any of those opponents, if they played them on the road, they would have lost.
Right.
Maybe South Alabama. But still, it has benefited them. I mean, they've only played 1 true road game at this point.
All right. I think you're next.
Yeah, this is from Thomas. The resolution will not be televised. Hey, guys. Like most other listeners, I couldn't help but turn up the volume after Ryan mentioned that the exclusive negotiating window for the Pac-12 ended Friday. Oh, that's dry as a desert sarcasm right there. Conspiracy theories on Reddit pages and Twitter burner accounts aside, it dawned on me that there was a very good reason no agreement was reached, and that would be, wait for it, the current win totals of USC and UCLA. Yes, I think that if there were ever a year for the rest of the league to dominate while the Bruins and Trojans wallowed in mediocrity, this would be it. The deepest and cruelest irony of the LA schools bolting for the Big Ten would be that their on-the-field success would encourage potential broadcast partners to lowball the Pac-12 conference as far as the value of the next TV deal. Just how much carnage do you think Chip Kelly winning that natty and Caleb Williams snagging the Heisman leaves in George Kliavkoff's path? And furthermore, isn't the real competition this year for the conference championship not between schools, but rather the loyalist block of Oregon and Utah versus the secessionist UCLA and USC? What are the chances that in Las Vegas we will see a school from each camp as opposed to both schools in the same one? Keep up the amazing work, Thomas. I don't know how this relates to the TV deal in any way.
It sort of like was starting one way and then came somewhere else.
Now, the question about, I think it is funny thinking about Oregon and Utah as the loyalists and UCLA and Utah and USC as the secessionists. Ryan and I were talking after the show last week about how funny it is that this year of all years, UCLA and USC have picked to be good.
You're right.
It's very funny. We've been waiting for it for a long time. It hasn't been coming.
Yeah. If you have an issue of like us talking about the LA schools being good, listen to the last 6 years of the show.
Yeah, no,
because
it's just us farting and pooping all over USC and UCLA. No, they're actually good for once. But my the point here, I think that'll be a funny little thing. Like once we get to that point, and if everyone's eliminated from the playoff, which still has a pretty good chance of happening, well, I think at that point maybe we start wondering about ref bias and stuff like that, because they're going to want Oregon or Utah to win that game.
I kind of think I think there would be one from the secessionist camp and one from the loyalist camp, right? So I think
Well,
one of the USC and UCLA schools will go, and then one of the Oregons or Utahs will go, I think.
Yeah.
That's my kind of thought.
A lot of it's going to depend on the remainder of the slate. Oregon probably has the easiest path to one or fewer losses because they get both of their tough opponents left at home. They get both Utah and UCLA at home. And so they could easily go 9-0 in conference. Well, not easily, but they could go 9-0 in conference.
Yeah.
USC has a pretty easy path. All they have to do is beat UCLA basically on the road,
Right.
and then they've got one loss. Utah, obviously, they need some help. And UCLA has USC and Oregon left.
Yeah.
So it still sets up probably for the most likely outcome to be Oregon and USC.
Oregon's got the toughest schedule, though. They have two. Oh, well, they have home games, but they play two of those teams.
I should say this: it sets up the most likely scenario is Oregon versus one of USC and UCLA, because a lot will be determined more or less by UCLA and USC playing each other on the 19th.
Yeah, that's true. All right. Well, thanks for that. Let's see. This is from Frank in Sarasota, not Sacramento. What if 4 teams end up 8-1? If UCLA, Utah, USC, and Oregon all end up 8-1, which 2 teams go to the Pac-12 championship game? I think that's an impossibility.
Yeah, I don't think they can because of what happened.
Right.
So USC has a loss now, and they still have to play UCLA. So if they beat UCLA, that's 1 loss for UCLA, which means UCLA will have had to have beaten Oregon, which is 1 loss for Oregon.
And Utah would have to beat Oregon because they already have a loss.
They already have a loss.
So there's no way that
there's no way for Oregon and Utah to both have 1 loss.
Yeah.
If you want everyone else to have 1 loss as well.
Right. So yeah, that's an impossibility. So there's no.
Yeah.
Thank you for wasting all of our time.
God, working our brains at this late hour. My God, in the show. It's obviously 11:05 a.m.
Yeah.
Get off my balls. All right. This is from Phil from Pullman. Media deal. Hypothetically speaking, if the Pac-12 was to, by some miracle, devise a media contract that is just as or more appealing than the Big Ten media deal, could USC and UCLA by chance change their minds and stay in the Pac-12, or are they essentially locked into the Big Ten at this point?
Phil and Pullman. I don't know, because there was even talk, like when the Pac-12 was talking of expanding and all that sort of slowed down, like could you get like a Houston that was going to the Big 12 but hasn't gone yet? Like what's signed? Like what is, what are the contracts like? I don't know. I'm not sure like if they've signed some kind of grant of rights already with the Big Ten. I would assume so. They have to sign something, but I don't know. Do you know if they sign anything, or like could they get out of it?
I mean,
at this point?
I would assume they signed something.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think if they tried to get out of it now, it depends on how eager Big Ten is. But they've negotiated a media deal already based on that. So I think it would come with some.
And I don't think the Pac-12 could do a media deal that would be anywhere near unless it was put in the deal that USC and UCLA were there. Like that's how you would get, if they could somehow get numbers that are close to the Big Ten.
But why would anyone be incentivized to create those numbers for them?
Yeah,
because Fox is already like they're the reason this is happening in the first place. And I don't think ESPN has any dog in the fight. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think this is our last one. Stinking Cal. This one came in while we were recording. This is from Ryan. I've been saying for years that, quote, Justin Wilcox is a good coach and a tough place to win. But no more. What was that, Cal? Heads need to roll. I've been knocked out of the survival pool by a Colorado team that was looking like the worst Power 5 team in 10 years. I may never get over missing out on a jockey gift card. Boyd in Boise. And it said, P.S. Cocky Dave is surprisingly entertaining. So how will the Bruins break his heart this year? I Can you say that?
No, words are hard.
Oh my God!
Anxiously.
I cannot say anxiously await. It is a long morning already.
Ankylosaurusly
await the answer to that question. Oh my God!
All right. So the best way. All right. So if we're ranking the ways in which UCLA could break my heart, it's not losing this weekend at Oregon because that's almost expected.
That's expected.
No. So what? There's 2 ways. One, you beat Oregon. You're 7-0.
Yes.
You're ranked in the top 5 probably at that point.
Yes.
Top 6. Lose to Stanford at home.
That would be tough.
That would be a tough one. Other way, You beat Stanford. You're 8-0. You're top 5 for sure. Lose on the road at ASU.
That would be tough.
Because that would be a mimicry of 2005, the last time UCLA started the season 8-0. They went to Arizona, the university, not the state university. And Willie Tuitama, leader of the 3-7 Wildcats.
He was good in that game.
Yeah, blew him away. True freshman Willie Tuitama. They lost 52-14 as an 8-0 team against a 3-7 team. This would be very similar to that. So those would be the two games I'm eyeballing as heartbreakers. Because losing at Oregon, that's almost expected. I'm walking into that. It's a 50-50 game. I think it'll be a lot of fun. But losing it, winning it, even if they get blown away, I'll be like, oh, okay, well, they're still on pace for probably 10-2. But walking out of that, you know how sky high I'm going to be if they win that game, and then Stanford or ASU knocks them off? That'll be fun.
No.
That'll lead to some fun POC action.
Undefeated UCLA, USC, one loss.
That'll just be fun. No, like even if they lost that one, that would just be fun.
What if it's a UCLA up 28-7 in the first half and then lose?
Look, will it rip my still beating heart out? Sure. But I think that it has to be one of those underdogs. Like it has to be the team that shouldn't beat you. It has to be something totally unexpected that just kicks you in the dick. Like something that has already fallen on the ground and takes you down. That's the UCLA way. No, losing to Oregon or USC, it's like, oh, okay, well, that was predicted before the season, so who cares? Right. But losing to ASU or Stanford at this point, that would be the real kick in the pants.
All right, we got some YouTube questions from Big T3. Dave, will you visit a barber before the end of the year?
For my beard?
I don't know. You just said barber.
I mean, I'll probably get a haircut at some point, but no, I do my own beard.
Okay.
That's why it looks so good.
And then he also wanted to know, who do you believe will have the upper hand in taking the quarterback job next year for UCLA? And then do you expect a big step back for, he left out a letter, the Ruins next year?
Oh, weird. And he capitalized the R.
He capitalized the R, so he just missed.
I don't know.
Maybe the B key's not working.
Yeah, the B key's not working. But he's got other, anyway. So quarterback next year, I think it's going to be player to be named later. I think they're going to go pick somebody up in the transfer portal. I don't think Ethan Garbers is ready to play very well at this point. Maybe he will be, maybe he won't be, but I don't think he's ready right now. So I think it's going to be transfer portal. And then big step back. I expect a step back. The schedule isn't that difficult next year, so I don't know how much it'll be record-wise, but they're not going to be this next year. Yeah. Dorian Thompson-Robinson is the reason they are this year, and he's not going to be back next year. So I would expect him to be like probably a bowl team, but I don't know if they're going to be a whole lot better than 7-5 or so.
All right, that's why you got to give Chip Kelly an extension now. He also wanted to know, do either of you see Arizona as a trap game for USC in 2 weeks? Road game can be a weird place to play, but like the defense is just so bad. I think that's going to make it really tough to beat.
It would have to be pure shootout. You'd have to get great Jaden DeLora, not merely good Jaden DeLora. And it would have to be something like essentially what we just saw at Utah. But the thing is, Utah's offense is so much more consistent than Arizona. You would have to end up with like literally everything clicking right for Arizona in that game offensively, because there's no way to make up for their defense. They would need to be essentially Utah was able to get a couple of stops. Arizona's not going to be able to. So they would have to, from the jump, just be lights out offensively.
Yeah.
They'd have to generate 650 yards of offense, probably onside kick one time to get the ball back. And they would have to be like a couple of weird interceptions or something. That's the only way.
That's not the definition of a trap game. That's like you're not ready to go in there. I mean, they would have to just play like lights out.
Yeah, they would have to play exceptional offensive football to make up for their defense. And I don't know that they're capable of it. I think they're a pretty good offense. I don't think they're capable of that.
Yeah, we'll see. And then we got one last one from Craig. Assuming this year's UCLA versus USC game means title game, etc., can we look forward to a live podcast recording?
Ooh. That would mean I would have to break my streak of not attending sporting events.
Oh, like do it at the Rose Bowl?
Are we going to do it like the Friday before?
Maybe that would be something.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm dead set on my plan of never again attending a live sporting event,
That's crazy.
or at least one that I'm covering. I'll only attend like baseball games that I don't give a shit about.
Yeah, I've gone to every game. I might not go to USC Arizona.
Wow.
But if they were undefeated, I probably would have gone. But
Do you know the last time I went to the Rose Bowl?
What?
2015.
No way.
I haven't been to a game at the Rose Bowl since 2015. I've been to a couple UCLA games, but they were both road games.
Wow.
I'm trying to keep the streak alive.
How do you do that? This is your job.
Yeah, I know. So it's easier to actually do what I do from home.
Gotcha.
Like writing, because I have to write and podcast right after the game. So doing that's a little bit easier from home.
All right.
And going to the Rose Bowl is terrible. Build the campus on stadium.
Tough.
Come on, guys.
It's tough to get there. It's tough, but it's beautiful. Yeah, well, I'll be there. Yeah, I usually see Tracy. I don't see you there.
Yeah.
When I go.
Yeah. You usually, again, for the last 6 years. Yeah.
And I've gone to several Rose Bowl games too.
Never been to one of those, like the actual the Rose Bowl.
Have you gone to the parade?
I worked the parade in high school.
Oh, okay, nice.
Yeah, I cut up roses.
Nice.
Yeah.
For like floats and shit.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I did that for Interact Club.
It was
in high
fun.
school.
I've gone a couple times. It was definitely cool. Like I lived here a long time. Never went to the Rose Parade. Like one of those things. But
is it one of those things?
It's one of those things that like people from all over the country watch.
I feel like it's a tourist thing. It's just a tourist thing to want to go to that.
There's I mean, there's people in Pasadena.
It's like going to the Hollywood. It's like going to the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Like, I would never do that, not in a million years.
But I bring people that are in from out of
everybody
town.
who wants to, they want to go to the Hollywood Walk of Fame. It's like, it's dirty, and there's just people like who are angrily dressed up in costumes who are going to charge you money for taking pictures with them.
Yeah, it's like a once a year deal, and they take it pretty seriously. I've had a good time going. I mean, it's early. It's an early game.
Are we talking about the Walk of Fame now? Or are we talking?
No,
about
that
was just an aside from me. Yeah,
but I like taking people. When I do the tour guide stuff, like I like showing them that.
Do you?
Yeah, I don't know.
I think that's because you're still a tourist at heart.
I like being a tour guide. Like I like showing people around. You're like, let's go to Venice and see some crazy people, and let's drive down Rodeo Drive. I mean, just doing the stuff like that is cool. Like, let's go look at the Hollywood sign.
It's because you're a masshole at heart. You're like not from here.
Right. But I've been here more than 30 years,
Right. You've actually been here almost as long as I have.
Yeah. It's crazy. All right. Well, let's wrap things up. That is David Woods. I am Ryan Abraham. Hope you guys enjoyed this edition of the Podcast of Champions. Only 4 games, but watch them all. Like, and just consume all of the games. Bye week for USC. I get to like really dig in and watch all these like super intently, which is going to be great. I might go back and rewatch some spring games. It's going to be a lot of fun. I want to see what Michael Penix looked like in the spring game.
You wanted to go back and look at Penix.
I want to go back and check it out. Turn the page and go.
You're going to be watching a lot of Penix this weekend with USC on a bye.
Should be fun. If you guys are not watching UCLA Oregon, there's something wrong with you. You got to check it out. It's going to be great. It's going to be a fun Pac-12 weekend, a short weekend, and then a lot of the byes are going to be gone, and we're going to move forward. We should know a lot more about the title race and all that kind of stuff. So it should be a lot of fun. For David Woods, I am Ryan Abraham. Hope you guys enjoyed the show, and we will talk to you next time.
Penix.